Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for traveling across the world to be with us. It's an honor to have you. I was just interested, Sheikh, in the topic of the Prophet ﷺ as a healer. And I was wondering if you could comment on that. And one instance sprung to mind, which I heard from a Sheikh, that a part of the house of the Prophet ﷺ was said to have resembled an apothecary, because of the many different things that he had, and that was, we don't think sometimes of the Prophet ﷺ's home in that way, that it could have resembled an apothecary, because of how many herbs or preparations he had. And in that same talk, I think it was Sheikh Hamza, also mentioned that I think Sayyidina Aisha's cousin asked her how she knew so much about medicine, and she replied that she had heard the Prophet ﷺ's discussions with the physicians. With either reference to those two or any other, I was wondering if you could just elaborate on, because we don't seem to have, in my experience, Muslims don't seem to have a concept of the Prophet ﷺ as a healer.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's why in the earlier part of my talk, I said and referred to the Prophet ﷺ as a Tabib Kamil. Yeah? Look, every Muslim believes that on the day of judgment, the judgment will not begin until the Prophet ﷺ requests Allah to start the judgment. Yeah? Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah believe that humanity will go from Sayyidina Adam to every prophet and say, the day is so harsh for us, will you please go and ask Allah to start the judgment? And every one of them will say, no, I can't do that. Until they go to the Prophet ﷺ, and then the Prophet ﷺ, it's a long narration and process. Eventually they will go into sajda, and then Allah will say, ask what you want to ask, and then the Prophet will ask. Now, this concept of shifa through the Prophet is part of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'at's aqidah and belief about the hereafter. Yeah? Now, how strange is it that an authority who has such powers in the hereafter cannot heal people here? Ask yourself. A day which will be 50,000 years, and no judgment will begin unless the request of the Prophet is accepted, and it will be accepted. Yeah? And when we pray, we ask Allah, oh Allah, grant us a significant portion of shifa from Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Yeah? Nobody disputes about this. Now ask yourself, a man with that authority in this world, he did not know what human diseases were? A man who knew so many matters of hereafter, and he traveled to Miraj. Allah did not give him knowledge about human body. Allah did not give him, na'uzubillah, knowledge about diseases, about health prevention, about superfoods. Of course, the whole knowledge of humanity on one side and the knowledge of the Prophet ﷺ is greater and bigger. So they were knowledgeable about human health and diseases. So, and there are many, many instances when people were ill, they would come to the house of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ would advise them. On one occasion, they entered their house, and there was a woman who had squeezed inside of the child's throat. And the Prophet said, why do you hurt your children like this? Why don't you use such and such medicine as a cure for this disease? Yeah? On another occasion, one of the companion had a heart attack. Any of you know the name? The Prophet ﷺ assessed and diagnosed the heart disease and said to the companion, you are having a heart attack, go and tell such and such Hakim to treat you with such and such medicine. This companion, after the treatment, went on to conquer Egypt. Today, a heart patient who has a heart attack is told, you're now on the state pension, yeah? You go home and relax. And there are many other cases where the Prophet ﷺ, it's according to one scholar, there are more than 400 authentic hadiths to do with health, food, medicine, specific diseases. As many as that. Yeah? Again, to give you an example, the Prophet ﷺ said that, use figs. Figs, it has a cure for such and such condition, and it is a specific for hemorrhoids. Yeah, bawasir and nawasir. These are two terms used in the prophetic language. So the Prophet knew to such a detail that this medicine, this fruit is cure for such and such condition. Again, talking about olive oil, the Prophet ﷺ mentions that it is a cure for more than 70 diseases, in particular this. So whether they're talking about a particular medicine or food or disease or part of the, ayat of the Quran or something else, yeah? So all this knowledge. And that's why it's important to first accept the authority of the Prophet that they knew about human body, about human heart and about human mind, yeah? And that knowledge was superior to the ordinary experimental methodology. Yeah? So one definition of wahi is that Allah through revelation gives His prophets, and especially the Prophet ﷺ, knowledge which no human science can touch. It is far higher and superior. Whether it is about akhirah or whether it is about human body or about the universe. And really, this confusion has happened due to one incident. So when the Prophet ﷺ went to Medina, the famous incident about the pollination of the dates, and that hadith and incident which has been misunderstood, and people have rejected the whole corpuses of Tibb al-Nabawi. And the modern last 200-300 years, this confusion has emerged in the Muslim mind that really, Tibb al-Nabawi is not an authentic tradition. But Ibn Qayyim, for example, in his time, writes about these matters and says, no, Tibb al-Nabawi actually is a superior form of medical knowledge. Again, for example, we can, the Prophet ﷺ, what did they say about covering utensils? That don't leave it uncovered. Cover it. Well, what are the reasons? Multiple reasons, but the fact they instructed us to do things like that. Today we can understand that there will be airborne toxins which can go into, but also we know that there are, like the germs and the toxins which now our instruments can see, there are other forces like jinnats and others who also move around, and if you leave something open, what you're saying, it's okay for you to mess around with it. And then you drink and consume that, whatever it is, you're going to get all sorts of infections and interference. So the whole hygiene, yeah, is just washing up the hands. For example, there's been some research in British hospitals which show that if doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals wash their hands properly when they touch one patient before they go to another, it reduces the incidence of cross-infection by 30%. 30%. So in hospitals, they have now charts and methodologies how to wash the hands properly. And if you look at it, they're completely like the Prophet said, wash your hands, in a particular way. So if we accept the position that the Prophet ﷺ were given knowledge about all sorts of matters, including about health and well-being, now this doesn't mean if we accept that no new information, we don't use new information. Of course we do. Yeah? But we accept their authority as a healer, as a physician, in all sorts of matters.